You're listening to the Unmitigated podcast, the podcast that brings to light the hidden risks business owners and entrepreneurs take every day that may not be covered by traditional insurance. Here's your host, Van Carlson.
Hello, Van Carlson with Unmitigated podcast. Thank you for joining us. We got a special guest today. He's very special for SRA and what he's been able to do for us the last almost a year now. It's Jared Maybon.
Yeah.
Jared, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I'm glad we can get this done.
Me too.
I think I kind of screwed it up a couple times on my end and
traveling.
Busy. We're all busy, right?
Yeah, it's good.
So Jared, I met Jared about a year ago. We were talking, and I was on the hunt for a way to make our company go to the next level, and was exposed to a concept known as EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And Jared and I met, and we hit it off, and introduced him to my team and to our leadership team, which a lot of you guys know, and we bought in. And it's been a great experience for us at SRA. And Jared, you're here to really kind of talk about EOS. I think it's, from my point of view, being a business owner, when we talk about unmitigated, how do we manage that? How do we mitigate, risk? Mm-hmm. And one of the things I felt I was at risk was eventually stepping out of the company down the road in the near future. But meanwhile, things still getting done. Mm-hmm. And so, first off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
And then how you got started the EOS program.
Yeah, absolutely, love to. So my background actually is in education. I started in teaching and in leadership. I got into a master's degree in organizational development, and that's where I kind of fell in love with the idea of getting systems to work well together. Finished that out, started a doctoral program and did a lot of research on getting grown-ups to play nice with each other, which is harder than getting kids to play nice, if any of you are wondering.
Strong personalities.
They can happen. And fell in love with it, decided I wanted to leave education and go test some of my research and what I had learned in the private sector. Wanted to understand how small businesses worked and how they organized themselves. So I got a job at a home building company. There were 3 people, including me, and the company was very small. And over about a 7 or 8 year period, we went from about $5 million in revenue up to about $40 million.
Damn.
So it was a pretty steep climb, and it was painful. It hurt. And about halfway through that climb, the wheels were coming off the cart, and we just didn't know. We didn't know what we were doing. We were bleeding money everywhere. People were starting to get mad at us, and it didn't feel good because we're good people. We work hard, and we wanted. We value our reputation a lot. So, speaking of risks, we were exposing ourselves to so many risks. Because we had more business coming on than we knew what to do with, really. So we had some friends introduce us to a book, Traction, by Gino Wickman, and they said, hey, read this, it'll help. We read the book. For a couple of years, we implemented the principles in that book just internally as a team without help from a coach. Found a lot of peace and respite there, but still felt like we were bumping into these ceilings we couldn't break through. So we were talking to some other friends here locally, own a number of companies and are quite successful. And we said, man, how do you guys do it? You've got multiple companies. I think at the time they had 7 across the Northwest, not just here in Boise.
I know some of that pain, not as painful, but...
Right, and it hurts, right? That's a lot of balls in the air to juggle. And so we said, how do you guys do it? And they said, well, it's the book Traction. We said, yeah, I've been there, done that. And they said, no, there's actually coaches you can hire that will walk you through that process and make sure you're doing it right and breaking through those ceilings. So we were intrigued. We found one, we interviewed him, we hired him on faith that it would work like it had for these other companies. Spent about 2 years with them, and it changed everything. It took about the 2 years, but that's during that period where we went from about 25 million up to 40. Around the time we brought on that EOS Implementer is when I took over the company as the CEO. So I was overseeing profit and loss for the whole organization. About a year into that, I wanted to expand into a second market. So we took our building company over to Twin Falls and opened up operations there and did really well there for a while too. So we were able to scale and expand beyond what we ever thought we would, right? And I was inspired by that change and that growth. So I decided to jump in and see if I could help other companies do the same thing because I was so inspired by it. So that's what I do now is I try to help companies find the same structure and organization as we did. Yeah,
so you are the implementer.
Correct.
Right. So you do, and I will just tell you from my point of view, the implementer gets it done. I know I ran into some folks that are doing on some of the stuff they're trying to instill on themselves, but we just went through our 2-day planning for our year, right?
Yep, it's
we
great.
Can't get enough of each other.
It's a lot of fun.
And I heard a lot of my team say, "Man, I'm drained," especially last night, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and you got a lot to think about in those 2 days, but the fact that having that outside party in those meetings, in those long day sessions, just keeps everybody on track. That's the big thing I noticed is I couldn't imagine doing this by ourselves. It would be more chaos, and I think too it'd be less buy-in, honestly.
Sure.
I think your approach with our team specifically, and I would imagine with all your clients, you are a great communicator at times, and you kind of let the things fly too, which is great. I mean, we talk about conflict.
Yeah.
I think conflict's a big thing in companies where. Let's be honest, the guys that are, like in my position as a founder or CEO of the company and of several different companies, I was always the one that has to be the one that has to deal with conflict.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my team, they just try to avoid it. And it's not like I want to go looking for conflict.
Sure.
But the buck does stop at your as the owner.
Yeah.
It stops with you. Whether you like conflict or not, it's coming.
It's coming.
And it's one of the things that, but conflict is good. And really, I purposely get people around me to create conflict because I can't always be thinking I'm always right. That was a big concern of mine. And of course, my son Dustin, he's our implementer. Integrator.
Earlier you called him...
Oh, yeah. That's really more it. He's more of the... what did I say? What did I call it?
It was the instigator. And I don't think he'll ever forget
He's the instigator.
If anyone ever meets these two, then it would make a lot of sense.
The cool thing EOS has a visionary.
Yeah.
And it has an implementer.
Integrator.
Why do I keep screwing that up?
It's dumb.
Well, it's what I do.
Yeah, you're good.
But people that watch this podcast have seen me screw up plenty of times.
They'll get it.
But... I prefer the instigator, actually, but it's good. I mean, we got a great. I mean, between he and I, and our personalities are, we're father and son, but we're significantly different.
Right.
But what I come to realize too, me thinking, oh, we're really unique. We're we bring a different product to the table. Which means we're a different type of company. And one of the things I got right away from you was. The basics of what's common with all businesses. And you want to hit on that real quick between, sales, everybody has that, right?
Yeah, so I try to remind people that there's I'm going to botch it, I should have it in front of me. There's a great quote in the movie Fight Club where he's telling a guy, hey, you're not some beautiful, unique snowflake. You're just the same decaying matter as everything else in the universe. And that's such a harsh and unfun message to hear.
Yeah.
But it's the reality of the situation is that all businesses are the same thing. They're made up of 3 major functions. There's sales, there's operations, and there's finance. And that's it. You bring in the business, you service the business, and then you track that transaction. And that's the whole thing from Google to snow cone shacks, I like to say, right? They're all doing the same thing. So what I like to do as a coach is it's important to me to get in and make sure that businesses understand, hey, regardless of what you do, or where you are in your business, you are just doing those 3 things. And they're the fundamentals, and you can't mess them up. So I'm a coach. I think of myself as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's an easy application to go and think of a gym in the weight room, right? And you have people exercising. And without a coach, you're exposing yourself to all kinds of risks, right? Because the little simple basics, is my form right? Am I holding my muscle, my frame just right as I do this lift? And just some of those basics that are going to be transferable across any lift or any workout or any sport, we have to find those things and make sure they're touched up. So it is true that businesses are all unique and have their own thing and their own people, but they're all the same at the core. And it's about getting back to those core things. And if we can keep those aligned and correct, we really do mitigate a lot of that risk that we encounter.
And honestly, the reason why that brought me so much comfort, because in a way you start getting in your mind that there is a, we're unique and we're doing everything the way that's unique to us. And it makes it to where you start believing, you start believing your own BS.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it feels impossible to leave
Right.
the company because you think, okay, I've become the company. I am
Right.
the company.
Yeah.
People look for me to make those big decisions.
Yeah.
What am I going to, and I think a lot of business owners, especially founders and the first generation of a business, get into those things and then are like, man, there's no way out for me.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I think when you first met, you brought that up with me. And you're like, no, at the core, you have different products, but at the core, you're all doing the same thing. And that brought me a lot of comfort to where, honestly, and it continues to bring a lot more comfort from an EOS standpoint of, fully implemented in our company, is knowing that I could step out and the company will continue without me.
Yeah.
We have all egos. We're, slightly, I'm not narcissistic, I think, but I've been accused of it.
Borderline.
Borderline. But that, you get the good and the bad, and all that stuff,
together,
right?
yeah.
But so the fact that, I have been able to sleep a lot better over the last year.
Yeah.
It's one of the things we love to say about our clients. We just help our clients sleep easier at night knowing
Yeah.
they've done our program.
Yep.
And the fact that I've done EOS has been able to make me sleep because I really do see light at the end of the tunnel where this thing will continue without, and that's really being a true business owner,
Yeah.
right? It's making money, it's growing, whether you're there or not.
Right.
And I think EOS really brings in a great system. So if any of our listeners or clients, if you're advisors of ours and you had clients and business owners, obviously, if they haven't looked at a thing like EOS, I think it's instrumental in doing that. One of the things that, what's your typical client? Who's your typical client that you're dealing with?
Yeah, so it's small business, right? So, typically we're somewhere between 2 to 5 million all the way up to 100 million. Some of my biggest clients are over 100 million. And usually they're somewhere between 10 to 250 employees.
Yeah.
That being said, I know a couple publicly traded companies, 3,500 employees, they run on EOS. My smallest client has 2 employees. They run on EOS, they do 6 million a year. In any industry, it works because it's those foundational truths. And the something you just hit on that really resonates with all of the people I work with, all of the teams that I engage with, the owner always views themselves as the company and have this fear that if they disappear or if they're not there every day or if their hands aren't touching every piece of the company, that their vision's not going to be executed correctly. And to be transparent, there's no bigger risk than that in a business.
100%. Well, the ceiling's coming.
It's coming, and it's coming hot and fast.
Yeah.
And if we can't get the owner extracted from the day-to-day, that business is in such a dangerous place because as long as the owner is down in the roots of the company, whether it's 2 million or 150 million a year, as long as they're down in the roots of the company, people are dependent on what's inside that person's head.
Yeah.
And we expose ourselves to all kinds of challenges when that's the case because we are hoping that person can get it out of their head appropriately, which may or may not happen sometimes. We're hoping they don't get sick. We're hoping they don't travel too much, right? If anything happens to that owner, the company is at massive risk. So the best thing we can do is pull everything we can out of the owner and build systems with it and get that company running on systems. And then the owner can go and kind of meander and do what they're going to do and have a hot-headed day and have a sleepy day and have a vacation day. And the company's going to run. I know. That doesn't happen with you. I know that. With other people, I'm talking about. Other businesses.
No, and that's a great point. That's, again, talking from a personal level, it's just, man, it just gave me the road path, right?
Yeah,
and I think the other thing, too, I think corporations work for a reason.
For sure.
And if you want to go keep growing, and we've I think we're over 35 employees now at SRA, and we've grown fast in the last 2 to 3 years. We've had to pivot in ways that if you're a founder or a grow-over company, you're typically not a great corporate employee. Right? And so, but I recognized that in order to grow to the level we want to grow and we want to double in 3 years, there had to be something in place to make that work because it wasn't just going to be me. And honestly, I don't have the fight like I used to have, the fire in me, right?
Yeah.
Where, meanwhile, there's a hell of an opportunity on the table for us to go capture, and do you have the wherewithal to go do it? I think that's another issue that owners get into, right? Especially especially clients, at my age, in the mid-50s, that are just like, hey, do I really need to go chase this anymore?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got your staff, it's a family-ran business. They want to go to the next level.
Yeah.
But to having that system in place, one of the things that's, being from a corporate environment, one of the ways I really despise corporations concepts are meetings to have meetings.
Yeah.
And one of the values that and I found myself being in a lot of meetings all of a sudden with different department heads because somebody came into me several years ago and said, Van, you got great culture, but you're very horizontal.
Yeah.
Everybody has access to you.
Yep.
And if you're going to grow, you got to start going down. And then he literally said to me, he said, you probably blew through 2 C-suites levels. Yeah. I'm like, we got to have those?
Yeah.
You don't think about it until somebody says it.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that was said to me, and then I'm like, I got to start looking at department heads and da-da-da. And as soon as I started doing that, I started having a ton of meetings, and I was going crazy. I was like, why the... And I hate meetings to have meetings, but everybody had to have their time. And the fact that EOS has a thing called the L10, and super disciplined to that schedule of that meeting, and the amount of issues we resolve, that alone has such huge value to a business owner or any business. And two, by the way, the morale of the employees.
Yeah.
I mean, they all have jobs to do, but meanwhile, if they got to sit through 2-3 meetings a week at least, and that's being, there was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
That L10, to summarize it, it's an hour-and-a-half commitment. Well, ours starts at 9:30, we end at 11. It's organized, it's boom, 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 and I really love that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of smart things EOS has done, but to me, that's one of the smartest things that's really helped me know that things are getting done.
Yeah,
I love it.
We call it the meeting pulse, right? And that's on purpose because it's the lifeblood of the company. It's what allows the owner to have a pulse on what's happening without even having to be in the system, really, right? I mean, you can disappear and maybe even not attend some leadership team L10s.
I'm down to 1 a month now.
See, that's amazing, right? That you're able to do that, but the company's not dead.
No.
Somehow you've taken ahead of the company.
I get a summary of what went on,
Yeah.
and sometimes I look at it, sometimes I don't, and I'm always amazed how much stuff gets done in that hour and a half.
Yeah, but it's about a system, right?
Absolutely.
It's if you just and you've got a big leadership team, right? You got 9 people in there, and it works beautifully, actually. I've come to love the dynamic of that team, but they all communicate, and it's systemized. You throw 9 people in a room and say, go. I mean,
you get a piece of paper like this with an agenda, but everybody has their own agenda, and if it's not on there,
they'll just go off the handle, right? It becomes a fist match. So we have the structure in place, and it's about systemization. One of the fears people have is we talk about these structured meetings, and these small business owners get afraid and they say, I want nothing to do with structure.
Right.
That's corporate, right?
Right.
And it makes them scared, and they start to run away from it until they see that structure is what's saving their lives, right? It's how corporations become big corporations. They integrate structure. But as the owners, the visionary, you get to choose where you go. You don't have to become some big corporation. You can stop at a certain level, but why throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Bring the structure in and let yourself breathe a little bit so that you can live a less structured life even and only show up once a week or once a month to let this meeting happen and see it go on its own.
No, and it's, again, it's brought calmness to me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like nobody, and one of my favorite books was E-Myth.
Yeah,
Entrepreneurial
absolutely.
Myth, and I do consider myself more of an entrepreneur. I know I would be terrible if we went into a holding pattern and maintained.
Yeah.
I want to. That doesn't feel like winning, and I want to feel like winning every day.
Totally.
So it's about growing a company, and that's winning, and that's the way I look at things. And the fact that we don't have those companies, and you said it, get worried about corporate structure. And then one of the things about E-Myth talks about is franchises.
Yeah.
Right? A process, procedure in place.
Right.
The most successful business model we have today is a franchise. The cool thing about EOS, you're creating a franchise because it's a system in place, right? I mean, and that to me, it resonated with me because, like I said, it was one of my, we as entrepreneurs, we get out there and beat our chests and, oh, look at us, we're charging the mountain and we're going to go win this thing. Okay, that's great, but charging them out every day gets old.
Fast.
and so the fact that there's a system in place, and before I used to think about franchises like McDonald's or anybody you walk in, you know what you're going to get, you know how it's going to proceed. There's all processes, and it's not about you want to have quality folks working for you, but it's really the roles in each one of those departments that are duplicatable. And the fact that EOS again showed me the ability to franchise my company is unique as we are, as a product line we are, and how the different dynamics we have internally. The fact that we can turn that into similar to a franchise model is what EOS really brought to the table for us, and it made it clicked in me. And then once I saw it being implemented, and just as important, our staff and all of our employees have bought into EOS because we've moved all those L10s down to the different departments and the fact that we have core values now, the fact that we have a statement of what we really do for our business owners, our clients, all of those things we didn't have before.
Yeah, brings clarity.
And it really enhances your culture. Where before I was told, hey, you got a great culture because you're linear and everybody has access to you. You're always going to have great culture for that. The problem is when you start going down, people get disenfranchised, they're not seeing the leader anymore, or you're not hearing from them anymore. But meanwhile, without that system in place, without that, you either got to decide, you're going to go horizontal, or you're going to keep going horizontal because there's a certain ceiling to that.
Yeah, it'll break.
Or you got to start going down. And once you start going down, you will lose culture. Absolutely. Because and I being me, I discounted culture a lot as a business owner, honestly. But I've come to realize over the last couple of years, it's extremely important. And I think a lot of us that start companies kind of like, we don't what culture. Because first off, you think I didn't create a company to get a culture going. Right. But the reality is we all have cultures.
What's your biggest expense at the company every month?
Exactly. That payroll.
It's payroll every single month, right? And what keeps that payroll safe? It's culture.
Absolutely.
And so I get it. It's
probably more so than now than ever.
Oh, big time. And the bigger you get, the more that's the case, right? And so if that culture starts to weed out, you start to see high turnover and people are leaving and they're looking for something else because their needs aren't being met. And you're right. The deeper you go as you grow as a company, the harder and harder it is to get to that culture because guess who owns the culture?
Right.
It's the owner of the company. So you have to find systems and ways to get that culture out of you and disseminate it throughout the organization in a consistent fashion. I had a brother that worked at Kona Grill. You ever been to Kona Grill?
Oh, yeah.
Good food.
Yeah.
Sometimes. They used to have a key lime pie. I don't think they do it anymore.
Oh, they don't?
It was on point. Anyway, my brother worked there for a minute, and the owner of the whole company came in, and they've got locations all over the place. And he was testing sauces in the kitchen, and one of the sauces was just off, and the guy lost his mind. Just flipped a lid, owner of the company, over a little thing of sauce. And everyone was like, whoa, dude, don't you have bigger fish to fry than this little cup of sauce? And he says, no, I don't. The reason we're so successful, the reason we've been able to grow like we have, is because every single time a customer walks in the door, they know exactly what they're going to get, right down to the sauce. True. And if that flavor's a little bit off, then it makes them question their whole experience with us. And so I love that story because it's so translatable to all businesses. When your employees walk in the door, if they don't know what to expect, it's going to throw them off. They're not going to have fun at work. They're going to be scared. They're going to be anxious. They're going to be confused. They're not going to want to come into work because they don't know what to expect. Same with the customers. If they come to you and the product's a little bit different every time they get it, that's not good. They're going to turn and run, right? So getting these systems in place to where we can replicate Van, right, and replicate them a million times over through systems and processes eliminates that risk of employees leaving and of hard-earned customers leaving because now we have you disseminated through the whole company, right?
100%. And like I said, I think so. Let's talk about the future. Obviously, we were talking about this you're always looking for new clients.
Yeah.
I'll run into folks, and by the way, you're not just I'm in Eagle, Idaho. You're in Eagle, but you go anywhere around.
I'm nationwide. Yeah. I travel. Probably 50% of my work is travel.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't figured out the EOS or haven't heard about it, you want to reach out to Jared. Obviously, contact us, Jared. We're going to put your email up, I think, on the, and then I'd love to. One of the things that And here's the thing about where we're at as a company. I do see a path for us to grow now. I think we just went over our 3-year, 1-year goals, our 10 years. What's cool about what you guys have done for us, honestly, is not only help enhance our culture, but bring real accountability. Because we're not great about that.
Yeah, most people aren't naturally. It's tough.
It is. Yeah. And I think EOS has got a great source for that.
Yeah.
I know that lets Dusty do what he needs to do because he's big on accountability. Yeah. I'm not, me as the owner, I was never, but I knew the importance of it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the one to implement it.
I get it. Yeah, no, that's pretty standard for
it is.
I want to be the good guy.
Nothing unique here.
No, yeah.
Nothing unique. I find it funny. And I deal with a lot of business owners all over the country, and we're all very similar on our personalities, honestly, is what I'm finding out.
Yeah.
And most of it has to do with being, not afraid to take a risk.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, right? Big risk takers. And the scary thing is that most of the people you hire are not going to be that way.
No.
And it's going to scare them.
So true.
It's going to scare them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to systemize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, man, EOS has been a godsend for us at SRA.
Good.
And I would tell you our strategic partners are going to see that. Our clients are going to see that. I think they've already felt that.
Good.
It's given us the confidence to grow this year. Like I said, double in 3 years. And I think without EOS, I don't know if we'd have. I don't even know where we'd be on direction-wise.
Yeah.
Are we growing or not growing? I mean, it's just a ton of things that go in out there. But and you get to a certain maturity level of a business, and you got to make a decision. Do you want to keep growing or not? And EOS is going to provide that to us. So, I don't know if we talked about a lot of unmitigated risk here, but I do think we talked about some. I think we did actually when we talk about where you at in your business, where you want to grow. Do you have a system in place? Are you replicatable as an owner of the business? Do you feel like you got to be the one that has to always run with the flag up the mountain? There's a better way of doing things, and really I think it's because of EOS, Jared, that allows me to. One of the greatest compliments we get from our business owners when they say, Van, I just sleep better at night knowing I've done your program here at SRA. And I would tell you, I sleep a lot better because I did EOS.
Well, and I love that. And you say we don't know if we talk much about unmitigated risk. I think that's all we talked about today.
Yeah,
because the reality is if you lose the ability to provide that to your customers, or if you lose the ability to sleep well at night because you're proud of what your business is doing, that's maybe the biggest risk of all. If you burn out, if your company loses you and your clarity and your vision, it's nothing. The fuel's gone, right? So
and you did it. You took a lot of risk and a lot of fight to get to where you wanted to be.
100%.
And now,
you don't want to get rid of that.
No. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys joining us today. Hopefully this has been informative. If you want to learn more about EOS, I would encourage you guys. I don't care what level company you're in or anything else. I think it's probably the most used operating system in the United States and is growing rapidly. And man, thank God, because without a system, it's hard to grow and it's hard to have fun at work, honestly. So, Jared, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Van. It's awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, you guys.